What's up, guys? Big day today. Today I will be taking that one off to put that one on. So it's it's a 6.4 intake. I bought the intake and all the rest of the stuff together. It was kind of a package deal from a guy that had it on his, I think it was a 14 RT. So it's the MSD Windows switch box, which you need, as well as the circuit boss, and the wiring is all there. Just a couple things that I need to kind of tidy up with it. But it came pretty much with everything. So it's time to get started, and I'll walk you through this process as I go through it. Be my first time soldering in years, but it shouldn't be too bad. So let's get started. All right, step number one, guys, is disconnect the battery. Always do that before you work on your car. Next, I'm gonna take the half covers off. Gotta get access to everything. And then after that, I think I'm probably going to, well, I'll have to see. I'm not sure. I might have to take my cross brace off here. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'm gonna check that out next, but definitely the half covers first. All right, half covers are off. Next, and I should mention that I have to take my oil catch can off to get the half covers off. So I got that undone. Then I'm gonna actually undo those from the connections here. And then once I get this off, then I'm gonna take the air hammer intake off. So that's just disconnecting the AIT sensor and then taking the clamps off. So I just wanted to point out, I'm about to take my intake off, and obviously this is an aftermarket intake, so I've already taken my AIT sensor out of my stock intake and put it in this one. I just removed it from the harness here. You can see, because I'm gonna extend it, but be very, very gentle with this when you're taking it off. It can break pretty easily. Ooh, I don't know if I can get it in focus. And they're pretty expensive to replace from what I understand. So now that I got it off, I'm gonna put it in a safe place and then get to the rest of the intake. Air hammer is off. See there? Next is gonna be throttle body. So got to disconnect the electrical connection here, and then I think it's 4 8mm bolts, and take that off. I decided to take my petty strut brace off, just to give me more room in here to get this intake manifold off. I was getting ready to do the fuel line. Well, actually, I was trying to get the map sensor off. That is a big pain in the butt, doesn't want to come off. So what I'm going to do is take the fuel line off, get that done. You can see I've covered all of my fuel injector plugs, make sure no gas gets in there. But I'm gonna get this off, then I can unbolt the manifold. I'll be able to bring it forward, and then hopefully I'll be able to reach that map sensor better. All right, that wasn't too bad. So you can see I got the fuel line off of the rail now. So basically you have to push this forward and then hold the blue little clip here and then pull this back. A little bit squirted on the intake manifold. Actually wasn't bad. I mean, way less than I thought. The key here is take off your gas cap. It relieves the pressure in the system and it doesn't go everywhere. So that wasn't bad. I'm gonna keep the rag there, or the towel there. There's gonna be fuel in the rail, so when I take this intake manifold off, it's probably gonna spill a little bit. But now I'm gonna do the bolts all around, and then it's tackling that back map sensor and vacuum lines. All right, so I got all the bolts out. As you can see, I was able to move the intake manifold forward. I think I'm gonna have a little bit better of a time, or easier of a time, getting that map sensor off right there. It's just a pain in the butt. I don't know this thing. But and then the vacuum line is, oh, actually this one right here. So yeah, I don't know how you would get this one off. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of hard to see, but it goes all the way to the back here. Once I get this map sensor off, I'll be able to move it a little bit more and hopefully get that. All right, this was the least fun part of the project so far. This map sensor was on there so tight. So what I did is I just moved this again a little bit more. And so you have this top lock tab, but then you have the little tab that you push down to get it off. Well, it was on there so tight that I had to kind of just push it. My key was not just pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, just kind of work it loose a little bit side to side, and finally it popped off. But that was a big pain in the butt. So, but at least that's off now. So now what I'm gonna do is disconnect. You'll see here, this vacuum line. This is the last thing holding it on the car. Success. So we have reached the end of the uninstallation. So basically, to get this hose off back here, I just sprayed a little bit of WD-40 and used some, just some pliers like this. Kind of put it around the hose, wiggled it back and forth, and I was able to break it free there. This is actually not as nearly as clean as I was hoping to see. It is pretty messy under here. Well, yeah. So anyways, the next step is I'm going to clean these very, very carefully, not to get any of this gunk into the ports themselves. I'm just going to clean it up really, really good. I mean, you can see here, it looks like some of these were leaking a little bit. I'm assuming, yeah, I mean, looking at this, this intake or the valve covers, none of the seepage really seems to be from under there. It all seems to be from the intake manifold. So this is actually might be maintenance for my car, because that's not good. You don't want it to be seeping out like that. So, all right, guys. So upon looking at this further, you know, these intake ports are pretty gooked up. So what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning it's really just the top of them. So as you can see, I just stuffed the paper towel down there, and I'm cleaning just the top of it. You don't want any crud to get in your valves down there. So that's why I have the paper towel down there, to prevent anything that I'm cleaning up here to get down there. And then I have a vacuum that I attach this hose to, so I'll be able to vacuum out anything that's on top of that paper towel, and then I'll just pull the paper towel out. I guess it is a lot of oil blow-by still going on, even with the catch can installed, but so I'm just going to go each one individually. I covered the other ones to make sure nothing gets into those ports while I'm cleaning this one. I'll just do one at a time. I've got 8 to do, so it's going to take a little bit. But they're not going to be perfect, but I just do want to clean them up the best I can without spending, you know, hours and hours and hours. So, guys, that was not a fun job. You can see here, this is all from wiping out those intake ports. These are the paper towels I use. You can just see how nasty this stuff is. I used a toothbrush with I actually didn't have any brake cleaner. I actually used mass airflow sensor cleaner. I mean, it's essentially the same stuff. And so I was spraying it in a little cap, taking the toothbrush, scrubbing all these intake ports and all around them. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was. This stuff is like tar. It's very sticky and you can stringy. You can, like I said, you can see what I got out there. So, you know, take it for what it is. You can do it whatever method you want to do it. One thing you don't want to do is let anything drop down into those valves if they're open. So that's why I was doing the paper towels in there. I know it's probably not the best method in the world. It's what I have. So again, these are just pushed down so I could get the top areas of these ports cleaned out, which they came out pretty good. And then I'm going to go back and really clean up the surface areas of where the intake manifold, you know, sits on top of it. Guys, so the next step is going to be to extend the map sensor. So I've already done these connections here. I'm just extending it about, I don't know, 8 inches or so, because the new manifold, the map sensor is in a different position. So basically you have to, this is where it starts getting a little scary, but you have to cut off the map sensor, extend the wiring, and solder them in. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm connecting this back up with the extension so that it can reach the new manifold. And so let me get these finished up, heat shrink them. I'm gonna wrap them up. I have some more of this, I'm gonna wire. I'll show you the whole deal once it's done. So I got the map sensor extended here and finished. As you can see, I tried to make it as factory looking as possible. So what I did is I soldered, like I said, the extensions in between, and then I heat shrunk around the solder, and then I wrapped with electrical tape, then cloth tape, as you can see under there, and then put this plastic conduit or whatever you will call over it. So looks pretty factory, so it's nice and extended. Should be able to reach the 6.4 intake manifold pretty good. So now the next part of the wiring is going to be tapping into the injector wire. So what I'm gonna have to do is cut back the tape here, and then from what I can identify the best, the brown with yellow here is the one that I'm going to splice into. That's the one that's consistent on all of these, and what I understand, that's the correct one to splice to, is the one that all of them have. So you can see this one's purple, this one's blue, but the brown with yellow is the consistent one. And so that's what I've read. You want to splice into that one. You can see it there again. That's the one that you want to splice into to get the RPM reading. So I've got what will connect to the white wire on coming off of the wiring harness here from the MSD box and the circuit boss. So this white wire, which is supposed to get signal for RPM, is I'm going to connect it to this black wire, which I spliced into the fuel injector wire on this back one. Like I said, I tried to make it look as stock as factory as possible. So after I spliced in and soldered it, I did electrical tape and then did this automotive fabric tape, which is really good stuff. So said the wires, I still haven't even trimmed it off of my wire loom here, but this is going to connect to the white. That's going to be for signal from the injector for RPM. And then I'm going to get, at this point, I've got that extended, so it's time to put the 6.4 manifold onto the 5.7. We're getting closer. So, okay, so one thing I forgot to mention is I had to, before I put the intake manifold on, which it's just sitting in place at this point. I did forget to show you how I cleaned off the ports, but I mean, you get the idea. Just cleaned the surface really, really well. I did have to plug in so this is the part of the wiring that goes to the active runners. So I had to plug it in on the back, because once you get this thing on, you're not gonna be able to reach it really. I plugged in the map sensor there, and you can see it's just the right length. I really lucked out, because someone said 6 inches, but I put more like 8 or 9, and it fits just perfect. Looks nice and factory. Got that, you know, the wrapping over it, so I just need to tape it a little better right there where it connects to the other one. But and then the vacuum line, I put the vacuum line on. That went on nice and easy. Just a tiny little bit of WD-40 helps it slide on. So now what I need to do is take the fuel rails and fuel injectors off of my old intake and put them on this one. Now this one came with fuel rails and fuel injectors, but since I know mine were fine, I'm just gonna stick with what came on my 5.7. So I'm gonna get those off the old intake, put them on the new intake, and then before I get this bolted down, I need to put some blue Loctite on each one of these bolts before I start bolting it down. And there is a specific pattern that you're supposed to bolt it down in, so it evenly distributes it. So let me get the fuel rails and the fuel injectors off, put those on, and then we'll go from there. Well, that was by far the messiest part of the job. So got the fuel rails off the old intake and the injectors out, fuel injectors. I'm gonna try to clean them up a little bit, use some of my mass airflow sensor cleaner. I don't know where I put it. Somewhere over there. But just clean up the jets a little bit. As you can see, they're a little bit dirty on the outside. Whoop. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to focus on this or not, but oh, there we go. This looks pretty good. I mean, that's the part that you want to be clean. So but I'm just gonna get them a little bit there. This part obviously doesn't really matter, but when you take your old intake off, like I said, the fuel rails are gonna be still full of gas. So get yourself a towel, put it under there. Tons of gas came out of this thing. It doesn't look like there's a lot that fits in those rails, but there is. I promise you. So I'm gonna get those cleaned up, like I said. And then after I get this intake manifold bolted down, I'm gonna put the fuel rail or the fuel injectors and the fuel rails on. Then we'll go from there. All right, so I got the fuel rails off and the injectors out of the old one, and they are on the intake now. I torqued down the bolts in the specific pattern that you're supposed to do it with 12 Newton meters of torque, which is like 9 foot-pounds. So it's really, really low. So you really want to make sure that you don't even snug them up really before you torque them down. I have a little torque wrench here that I use for my bike components, but you want to buy something like this off Amazon or whatever. that has really low torque settings. Like, you know, this one goes from like 2 Newton meters to, I don't know, 20 Newton meters or something. And just be very careful with it. It's plastic, of course, so you don't want to over torque it. As far as the injectors and the fuel rails, again, you're going to get a bunch of fuel coming out of there. So just try to empty out as much as you can. I cleaned the fuel injector heads a little bit. I used just a tiny bit of WD-40 to get them back into the fuel rails. And then what you do is you just take the fuel rail and plop it right on there and push them in. And then these are what holds down the fuel rails here. Let's see what else. I connected the vacuum line back up. Now you see that this one doesn't run nicely alongside like the 6.4. So that's something I want to eventually replace with the correct one. It'll just look a lot cleaner. Right now this one, I don't know, maybe I can, yeah, I guess I can bend it down like that. Maybe it looks a little bit better, but again, it's just a vacuum line. It'll be fine for now, as long as it's on there. And then I reconnected the fuel supply to the fuel rail over there. These again are the fuel rails and injectors off of the 5.7. So we got that tidied up. Next I'm going to put the throttle body on. So I believe that the throttle body compared to the old one mounts upside down, but as I get over here I'll guess I'll be able to figure that out. All right, so guys, so I took out the old gasket. I bought a new throttle body gasket just to be safe. I'll put that in there. And then cleaned up my throttle body. It had a little bit of carbon buildup on it, so I just cleaned it out the best I could with my mass air flow cleaner. And so the way this is gonna mount is gonna be like this. So this top part up, and so this connector will be able to reach that, and nothing's gonna be too close to that belt down there. So I'm gonna get this new gasket in and then mount up the throttle body. All right, got the throttle body on, as you can see here. Got the sensor plugged in there. Now I'm gonna put the intake on. So I went with a leg hammer short ram. Here's the extension I'll be using for my air temp sensor. So I got an 18-inch wire extension. From what I measured, the 9-inch would have been just a hair too short, so I went with the longer one just to be safe. All right, leg maker short ram intake is on. This was kind of a pain in the butt. I thought it was going to be a lot easier, but because this is being retrofitted, to get it to fit in this area without it touching anything and banging and all that kind of stuff, took some adjustment. So, but it's in and it's looking good. And they got the sensor in there, the AIT sensor. I just wrapped the extra bit around this cord up here so it looks nice and clean. So I'm going to put my strut tower brace back on so that I can start the final process, which is the wiring of the MFSD box and the circuit box and all that. I started working on the wiring, which is covered up right now, as you can see, because basically I tested out the car. The car started. It actually took quite a while because the gas, of course, there was no gas in these fuel rails after dumping all the gas out over there, getting them off. So it took a while, but the car did start. I looked at the MSD window switch, which is under here, and it was reading 0. So it wasn't reading the RPM off of the fuel injector wire back there. So I decided to test it out. I thought, well, I had 2 choices of wires back there. Maybe it was just the wrong wire. And sure enough, when I reconnected the power wire or the RPM signal wire from the MSD box to the other wire, I started getting a reading. So what that means is now I have to just solder up my connection back there. The other thing is the power that I'm getting to the MSD box is constant. It's not turning off with the car. So what that means is that I'm going to have to buy a circuit tester and see which one of the fuses inside this fuse box is off when the car's off and comes on when the car started. So that's another thing I need to do. All these things are just, they come up as you're trying to do this stuff. So I'm going to solder up this connection. I'm going to get the circuit tester, test out which fuse in this fuse box is the right one. And then everything should be good. I just need to basically button up the routing of everything and get my strut brace back on, and then it's time to take it for a test drive. All right, guys, car's running, and as you can see here, MSD box is reading That stands for 800 RPM. So it's reading the RPM now by tapping into the other fuel injector wire back there. So now it's really just tidying up everything. You can hear it sounds pretty good. I'm gonna shut the car off actually. All right. And so I shut the car off and the MSD box should be off now. It is. So that's awesome. It's not draining any power while the car is off. So for me, and I know that this changes by year and all that kind of stuff, but basically for me, I tapped into the number 60 injector coils and SRV, number 6 down there. Again, it's different for every year. Initially, I tried tapping into, the washer motor. That kept it on the whole time. And then the other 15 amp one is diesel PGM. I thought, oh, that must just be an extra one. But that one kept it on all the time too. So this is the one, and you can see this is just a fuse tap. So you have your 25, which is or 25's on the bottom. That's what was in there originally, 25A, and then the 5 is just for the rest of the wiring. Here's the circuit boss. So this is where I attached mine, just to the inner fender here to ground it. Just enough room to fit it next to this, the battery post here. I have some stuff to tidy up. So yeah, all these wires are going to be running inside this conduit, so it'll look nice and clean. I got a revised tune from HEMI Fever. He's my tuner. I emailed him on like a Monday night, and by Tuesday morning he had the revised file. I haven't talked to him in 4 years. He had the revised file for me, and it's once you pay for a tune, the revisions are free. I really do highly recommend him. All right guys, so I'm taking the car for a test drive, and so far so good. My only complaint is that my Diablo Predator is not currently reading my PCM for some reason. Hopefully it's just an update or something like that that I need. But anyway, I got the car warmed up. We're gonna do a pull, see what this baby feels like now that I got this intake on her. So let's see. Here we go. Pull it pretty good. All right guys, so there's the completed installation and test drive of the car for you guys. The test drive went fine. That was really the only pull I did. I think I did one more afterwards. And honestly, I'm gonna give you my 100% honest opinion on this because that's what I do. I was not blown away by this modification, but there's more. So don't just rule it out yet. There is more to that. But initially, I was expecting that kick in your pants feeling, and I wasn't quite getting it. So, like I said, I'll get more into detail in a different video. This is already a really long video, but I did want to kind of just clarify some things that maybe either changed from what you saw in the installation, or just more clarification on it. So the first thing I'm going to start with is the fuse box here, where I tapped into the fuse box. Initially, I said I tried the diesel PCM slot, and it was keeping the box on all the time. Well, I must have been confused. Maybe I used a different one, because I ended up trying it again after I got everything installed, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It turns the MSD box, I don't know why I keep saying MDS, MSD box off when the car's off, turns it on when the car's on. It reads the RPMs correctly. So I'm good there. So again, I changed it from the injector coils and SRV fuse, which was this one, and instead I'm tapped off of the diesel PCM, which really is just an extra fuse in this box, because obviously this isn't a diesel. So that worked out. The other thing is that it's going to vary by year. Dodge changed some things in the fuse box. Dodge changed some wiring colors on the injectors and coils. It's going to be a trial and error thing for you. I read a couple different things about the wire colors for the injector back there, and the one that I found for my year said a brown wire. Well, I was wrong. As you saw in the video, it wasn't reading it. I had to try the other wire. It's a 50-50 shot. There's 2 wires back there on your injector. It's the furthest back on this passenger side. Just, it's going to be trial and error for you. I would highly suggest you test it before you solder it. That was my big problem back there, is I had soldered it in and then discovered it wasn't reading. Test before you solder. I ended up mounting my box here using this leftover little bracket I had. I don't even know where it came from, but you know, it worked out well. I have it zip tied and double-sided tape. It doesn't move at all. Works out really well there. Again, I didn't really like the way it was mounted on the fuse box lid, so I ended up putting mine there. I think it looks cool. The only other difference I think that you're going to see is that my oil catch can looks a little bit different here. I have a different, I mean, this is really just a hose clamp, but what I did end up getting is a brass barbed fitting that fits inside one end on this one on this one, and it really keeps it tight and secure, so I don't have to worry about any vacuum leaks or anything like that. But it works much better for connecting those together, because the 5.7 intake, this port is over here, so you have a completely different configuration for your hose. You have to cut the hose, make it shorter, and that's what I ended up doing as far as the solution there. But again, I will follow this up definitely with a video of impressions. I just kind of wanted to clarify some of that stuff for you guys. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it's gave you guys some good info on this install. And keep a lookout for the impressions video with the track times and all that kind of stuff. So till then, peace out.